Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
They haven't got it! He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry! Hello everybody and welcome to the TSRC iRacing Rain Showdown here on iRacing. For the first time ever, we've got precipitation in the air for our rain shakedown here today. At a new circuit as well, the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben is our venue. One of those circuits that tries to take up as little land as possible in this small bit of flat land they've been given to make a racetrack. They've done the best they can with it, and I've got to say they've made a pretty nice racetrack of it too. One of the new circuits added into iRacing with one of its most anticipated features. Ready for 40 minutes of racing here tonight after the quarter-hour qualifying session that we're in at the moment. This is very much a one-off event and we're going to have some fun with it tonight, hopefully in the company of myself, Ewan O'Leary, and Biggles, who is alongside me, Dean Biggles, who will be joining me for the next hour. Good to be alongside you once again, Biggles, for this one. We have anticipated rain for what feels like forever. I remember conversations about this feature being added to iRacing back in 2016 and so on. Only now in 2024 have we finally got there, and everybody is raring to go, willing to embark on this voyage of discovery, which this race will certainly be.
Yes, welcome everybody to chat too. As DK Dave says, let's go. I think rather than anticipating, wouldn't it be participating or
precipitating?
Yeah, there it is. That's what you should instead of you. But of course, it's going to be fantastic. Well, let's hope. So far, it's been very, very positive that I've heard from all the news around paddock and stuff like that in iRacing about what people think about the rain model. Have they done it right? Have they, there's puddles that form on the track and stuff like that. That's what we've been told about, haven't we? Like, do the rain, do it properly, rather than just have one surface that's like, certain level of water and a high level of water and so forth. No, just like the real world, rain goes with gravity, falls down into corners, and you can pick up a lot more water there or not. So, what have you heard about the water model, Ewan?
Well, a few things actually. We're talking a little bit earlier on to Sharpie about this beforehand, of course. And talking first of all about which cars maybe suit the rain a little bit better than the rest here in GT3. You may notice there's plenty of Porsches on the grid here tonight, and the general consensus seems to be that that is the car to go for. It's just slightly more well balanced. It used to be rear-engined, of course, that car, and it clearly wasn't only just the fact it was rear-engined that helped it to be balanced in the wet weather. There's clearly some DNA there that Porsche have had for many years that has led them to have some fantastic races in the rain in the past, including an overall win at Petit Le Mans, who can forget, back 9 years ago now in 2015, although that was with a GTE spec car. The DNA has gone through all of the Porsche GT cars, and so it is very strong in the wet weather, and some of the others certainly not so strong. We've got a good variety. I think the thing that's most notable and the thing that applies to absolutely everybody is the lack of drainage, it seems, towards the sides of the road here on iRacing. It seems that the water really builds up there as if the drains are blocked, which is a little bit more of a challenge or a little bit different of a challenge to what you might see in real life. So when you're actually going towards the edges of the road, you can find yourself skating along a little bit, but I think the general consensus is from a lot of people that the anticipation for precipitation, as you were saying earlier, has seemed to have been worth it. It seems to have been worthwhile, and people seem to be enjoying themselves out there, is the consensus I've been getting.
Yeah, you're right about that, and I can imagine once they get all this driver feedback over the next few months, then no doubt there'll be another nice little build to fix that, maybe to clean those drains out that you mentioned as well. But that's a pretty positive thing because, for a fact, if they didn't get it right, okay, at least get the drivers a pretty thumbs up on this one so far, then it would have been a horrible backlash and everybody would have just been complaining. And people like to complain. It's very hard to get people to say, good job. It's not hard to get people to say, job. So in this case, once again, they will tweak it, no doubt. And of course, the only way to do that is to get all the feedback from everybody over a period of time. So I'm looking forward to it, but I'm actually just looking forward for the very first time. I think you as well too, that you and I will ever be commentating on a race that will have rain.
I've not done one yet. Same for you. So we're looking forward to embarking on this voyage of discovery. I wonder what people are going to be like around this circuit as well, and what experience they will have had around here, because Oschersleben is not one that's in all of the simulators by any means. It's a little bit different compared to some of the other tracks that we have in the world of sim racing. One of those German tracks that really gets forgotten about. Everyone talks about the Nürburgring and Hockenheim, but what about Oschersleben? Well, here it is here in iRacing finally as well. One of the new tracks, and slightly different from the other new track. Is it Misano we get in this time around, or Portimao? I can't remember. Maybe both. But I need to have a look at the patch notes again. But this is certainly the least well known of the circuits that have been added this time around into the iRacing service. So not only is the rain something different, but actually this very circuit is.
I lost you there for a second. Now you.
Right.
I think I've got you.
Am I okay now? Okay.
Might have just caught you at the end.
Let's,
Well, do you want to take us on a hot lap?
okay.
We are currently on a driver. Any particular one you want to ride on board with? We have, give or take, about 20 something that have turned up here this evening.
Yeah, let's try someone who's just starting a lap so we can really go through the whole. Chandler's just starting a lap. He's down in 15th position at the moment, is William Chandler.
There we go.
And just coming over the line now in the Audi. So let's hope he's actually on a flying lap here. Yeah, so that was a warm-up lap for him. So he's heading now in towards turn one. The fast chicane here, by the way, not the very slow, almost hairpin. Got Mercedes going for a drift in front of him. This is not going to help his lap at all. It won't be a new fastest, I think, for William Chandler this time around turn two. Now down into three, which is Hassroder, a hairpin. Very difficult to get the line right for this one. Do you go for a double apex maybe? Just a late one through the middle of the turn, because it is slightly banked as well. And then you've got a real section of commitment here with the triple left-hander. There's the first of them at 4, then 5, and then 6, which you really need to use to open up turn 7. Another hairpin, very much a characteristic of this circuit. Lots of very tight corners around here. Nicely caught slide on the exit there from Chandler, avoiding the curves somewhat and avoiding track limits violations, which will be rife around those couple of corners. But important to get a good run there onto Stassengarad, which is the back straights of this circuit. Then the Shell S, which is a right then a left with some more sausage curbs on the inside of them, despite the grass that goes even further than that. And then into the final couple of corners again as well, using a bit of the pit entry actually to open out your final corner, which is a little bit of an odd thing to think about. And Chandler just gets it wrong at the very end. He's unfortunately ruined the lap that he's on, and the next one. There's still 7 minutes remaining, which is a shame for William Chandler, but that's a rough look around this circuit.
Exactly, the cars are back too as well. That's the runoff. So these drivers are struggling in the dry. You can imagine what they're going to be like in the wet. I was just reading into the Discord chat as well too. But some of the drivers, I think it was Mr. Fisher saying, I've had zero practice here, I can't wait. And some of the drivers are going, well, you're all if you have zero practice, so let's see about that one. Now I can imagine to be like me out there driving for the very first time with a mouse and keyboard. I would be a little bit of a struggling problem, but once again, this is just a social race, so you've got nothing to lose, and the only thing you have to gain, of course, is experience and fun.
That's exactly what everyone is here to do on this occasion. So 15 minutes almost up, by the way. I don't really want to spoil the rain that's when it's going to come, actually. Now everyone's looking at this thinking, rain, shakedown. There is no rain. Well, that is true for qualifying, but we will get there by the race. This is an interesting look at the pit lane. You really do have to dart from the left here, or to the left on the way towards the final corner. And that is going to be, if we're going to need to pit for wet tyres, of course, which most people are expecting to do at some point in this race. They'll be going in on a damp pit entry with dry tyres on, but also wet weather and a difficult pit entry, so an exit, to be fair, where it's not easy to get out of either. So that will be something to note and something to take a look at when we get into the race as well.
What was that blue line that they just passed back there before?
Blue
Did you see
line?
that? There's a blue line.
I didn't see any blue line, although That may just be me.
We'll see if when they cross around again. I wonder if anybody in the
we'll
chat
see
knows
it.
what that little blue line was back there. It's
Yes.
I don't know. I know you'd know probably, but
Oh, if I saw it, we've got Martin coming up to the Thomas Martin coming up to the point at the moment. Although he might just have passed it too quickly for us there. But anyway, we'll try and find out what's going on.
go to
Yeah, is it to do with that cone there? I guess it's just a pit exit line, maybe.
It's a blue line that goes across half the track.
Oh, only half.
Just
right.
half the
Maybe
track.
it's the pit exit. I'm not sure really.
It could be actually. You might be correct on that one. See, I mean, there's a little line there. I don't know what that's for. Saw that
I
little
really don't know what
box.
that's for. That's very odd. And by the way, I think there's some sort of. Looks like there's some sort of body of water to the left-hand side here, doesn't it? I'm
Yeah,
not
that'll
sure
be
if
a
that's
little
what
lake.
that's
Well,
meant
that
to
could be full later on if that water runs down into there. Well, let's have a look. We're on the blimp camera, so we should be able to. Good thing about this track, of course, and with iRacing is that those trees don't cover half the track, which makes it very annoying sometimes when you're broadcasting and the tree gets in the way. Should give you the option of removing those trees because, you know, we are in the virtual world. We can do that.
It would look very strange though. Can you imagine going to Spa or the Nürburgring with no trees around it?
Yeah, the ones that are close to the track, at least.
It would ruin the immersion slightly.
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. Just over 3 minutes to go in qualifying, and Jamie Nuttall is leading the way by a couple of tenths of a second in the Audi, ahead of Tom Davidson, and then Josh Millington. So 3 different manufacturers in the top 3, and we've got 4 on the grid here tonight. Doesn't look like we're getting our Lamborghini, unfortunately, on the grid here tonight, but we are going to get a Ferrari. Actually 5, because there's a couple of Mercedes out there.
Oh, there it is. You're
2.
right. It's a pit exit. Sorry, my apologies.
It's a pit exit, yeah.
Right there, you called it. Yep.
Not sure why it's blue, really. It used to be just white, to be honest, on the pit exit there. But anyway, that's that sorted.
So you think the Lamborghini's just too much rear end horsepower there, and nobody wants to gamble but hit the loud pedal out of the corner when it's wet? Yeah, what about those chicanes as well, too, my friend? You think they're going to get a little nastier in the wet?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the curves, isn't it, that you're going to have to avoid. So especially through that section, which is literally called chicane in German, and that's just what they've called the corners. It's a bit like at Okayama, where the first corner is called first turn or something like that. It's very much the same way. So I think through that section, it's especially going to make it very difficult and very slippery as well. Because the curbs are what get wet after all, and the white lines as well. This is another look at pit entry. Tom Davidson. Oh, you see how difficult it is even in the dry. And then there's that chicane at the very end, sort of going the long way round the final corner, and then on the way into pit lane finally. But yeah, and there's the actual pit entry. Going to be very interesting to see everybody getting in on the time we get into the race there. Going to be pretty dangerous by the time we get around to the race.
Like Spa as well. Spa is always one of those tricky entrances. It's a lot shorter, no doubt, with that one, but you've really got to slow down in Spa, of course, how you come out of the bus stop and get it right. That's one of those tricky ones, isn't it? Because usually some people are trying to plan on an exit overtake coming out of the bus stop, and then people have got to jump to the right to get in there. And it's actually a huge cliff off there. You've got a concrete barrier, of course, wall, but that's a huge drop off, and they don't have any catch cage or anything. They're not expecting anybody to fly in there at 1,000,000 miles an hour, are they? But it's a tricky one.
It is. Now into the final couple of corners for Jamie Nuttall. 1 minute to go. It looks like Nuttall is going to be on pole for this race, the TSRC Rain Shakedown. Mercedes in the background is no longer going to improve in this session because qualifying is almost at a close to the first couple of corners. Nuttall again on board, I think getting it slowed down in time for turn 2 is the real difficult part, but going wide through there is not the worst thing in the world. You can get a late apex and get the exit. The problem I can see there being, especially in the dry conditions, is being able to overtake at this circuit, which historically has been a pretty difficult one in the dry especially.
You are correct on that, Ad. If you got your fold-out chairs, I would sit at the last turn, because you've seen a lot of drivers spinning off in that last turn, so I think that might be the one catching him out. So we'll have to see about that. But we don't know what's going to catch him out when the rain comes. We don't know, and that's another thing I'm not quite sure. Will the spotters, if you have an in-game spotter, or if you just happen to have a real person spotting, I've got to let you know. But as an in-game spotter, has that all figured out? So your spotter's going to say, okay, rain predicted in 5 minutes and things like that. Have you heard anything regarding that?
Yeah, I don't know whether there's, because they would have to, I suppose, re-record that, or maybe they've recorded it in the past, knowing that rain's going to come at some point. But yeah, maybe there is.
Because the drivers can't when you're racing, of course. Like, I mean, I could probably quickly show you right now where we got a split time. I don't like doing this too often, but the menu, right, that iRacing has, see here, weather. And that gives us a little indication of what's going to happen. I don't want to spoil it, of course, but it has a little radar map and stuff like that too. It'll actually show you all rain clouds and things like that. Drivers have that too, but they can't have time to pull up the menu, are they, when they're driving? So I'm be interested to know about that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, especially when we get into the events where rain isn't guaranteed, and we're sort of deciding will it, won't it, sort of rain. In this event, unusually, we're just deciding really when the rain is going to be rather than if, because we know that there is going to be some at some point, but just not necessarily when it's going to come, really. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do forecast it and how the spotter maybe deals with that. How you can deal with it in the car. As for longer races, and maybe you got a team member to tell you about it in the shorter races as well, maybe. But for this one, it's just going to be about plotting it around the time everybody knows that they think it's going to come anyway, and then deciding what to do upon that point. At what point do you cross over? At what point do you come into the pit lane? Is it going to be immediately when the rain starts hitting the windscreen, or are you going to leave it a couple of laps before coming into the pit lane? That's what they've got to decide on their own.
Yes, well, either that or they might notice that the crowd out there in the grandstand start pulling up their umbrellas and they go, all right, that's the time I need to switch it over. We don't know if the crowd, if iRacing's put that much effort into that.
They might just still be standing out there, shirts and shorts, t-shirts and shorts in the rain.
That's the thing, isn't it, with iRacing? It's not designed about the prettiness necessarily, what's going on in the grandstands. It's all about the simulation and the track and the conditions and stuff. Well, that qualifying session is over, and there is your grid there.
Yeah, it's Jamie Nuttall who's taken pole position by a couple of tenths of a second ahead of Tom Davidson. Josh Millington and Volkan Bakuduran are in the next row ahead of Glendy Diontis and Kieran Sharp for TSRC Esports. A couple of privateers coming up next, starting with Verdi Rombouts, Christian Kamprager, Alex Abril and Bobby Mills, all rounding out the top 10 as privateers. Gonzalo Barros is 11th, ahead of another TSR Esports driver, Andrew Pike, who is 12th. 13th position will go to the Ferrari of Ben Norton, ahead of Felix Smoggy. Another German of Sebastian Hutter will be, or Stefan Hutter, I should say, in 15th place. There's William Chandler. That's Matt Acton in 17th, ahead of Thomas Martin. Unai Ortiz is 19th, ahead of Johnny Wu. And then it is Archie Cole and Nizai Ozinar in the 11th row on the grid. David Barnes and Gergely Consabo round out the 12th row, with Oscar Saristo and Jason Krenkers on the back of the grid, although they didn't set a time in qualifying there, so worth noting for them. Meanwhile, looks like the pace car is pulling away and we're underway for the formation lap. Are we, or are we about to be? Anyway, we are indeed underway. Pretty overcast, as we would say in a previous time. That just means the track temperatures will be cool. You can keep your tyres in a better window for longer. But on this occasion, it means there is reason for concern, although it's be less so concern here for these guys and more just a waiting game. When are we going to see rain for the first time in TSRC competition on iRacing?
He's excited for the rain at the moment. Look at that, 72% chance of rain in the overcast, and you can see that clouds come over there. Look at those track temperatures, 28. We'll keep an eye on that as the race gets underway soon. Thankfully, they won't be doing this. Imagine a standing start too in the rain. That's something interesting. Luckily, these drivers won't have to do that. That would be, well, that could be like Spa in Formula One. Sorry?
Not many standing starts at all, to be honest, in iRacing, in any competition, because nobody nobody drives the F1 cars, so
it's true.
it's very rare. Although there are some occasions, I
They're
suppose,
too
with
hard.
Formula cars.
Most people can't.
Oh,
They're way too hard for most people to handle. Why not? It's supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsports, isn't it, to drive? So we shall see.
Well, having around the 7th turn, around the hairpin back down here. 2x2, of course, which will be starting this race. And we, as you can tell already, it's not going to start raining on the formation lap, although I don't know what the rules surrounding that are. Why would you ever do that in a previous life on iRacing? But more importantly, we're not going to see rain off of the start of this race on this occasion. So it will be dry for the start, although we were pondering just beforehand, because they know rain is going to come at some point, is anybody going to start on the wet weather tyres so they don't have to make any pit stops throughout today's race? That would be a bold call.
Yes, you're right on that one. Unfortunately, we can't show you the tyre model just yet because the software that we use is working to get that updated at some point. So we don't know even what the tyres are. If you can see little stripes or something like that on the side, it's going to give you any indication whatsoever visually if they're using a rain tyre. So it's a first of many for us here this evening, well, at least for you and me, the JP Broadcasting Network. Our first rain race experience. Many more to come, no doubt. And there it is. So over to you, Ewan. He's going to get safely through lap 1.
We are ready to go. Out of the final corner for the TSRC Rain Shakedown here at Oschersleben on iRacing in the rain for the very first time. Although starting in the dry weather conditions, the green flag waves and we are underway. Jamie Nuttall making his way towards turn 1 in the lead. There's a couple of cars in the wall on the way down towards turn number 1 as they cycle their way through the opening chicane of the day. There's already spins, I'm afraid, and already drivers out to the outside of the circuit. Looks like Stefan Hutter has made it through, actually, and it's some of the others who have gone around already off the start. Unai Ortiz already back to the pit lane. Volkan Bakadan, who started on the second row of the grid, already down to pit lane as well, already down to the back, I should say, as well. But it's been a good start for the pole sitter, Jamie Nuttall, getting off to a nice start and hanging on to that early lead.
Yeah, you can see some of those drivers have dropped down there. We'll see if we get a little bit of a chance to have a replay of that one in a second. Look at that gap that Jamie's already pulling off at the moment, which will give him a huge advantage later on because when that rain does come down, he might have just enough time to get in and out and ahead of everybody else. But we'll have a look what happened with that slight little incident. I think it was all the way back around here too at the start. This was even before they just crossed the start-finish line. They come together there. That's quite interesting way would it turn because that corner wasn't coming up just yet, and then of course that's caused a little bit of a rebound effect after that. And who else was that? Yeah, that was also a part of that one. Yes, and there was another one was if this driver as well. We saw just in the background
something else. So
yeah.
Eddie Rumbart's having to go to the gravel to avoid, I think, Volkan Bakadan, who was the one who went around there in that second part of it all. But here's side by side into the first corner. Oh, between teammates as well, and that could have got a little bit awkward indeed. As we saw Niazi Zinar going side by side there briefly. Well, I say teammates, but according to our entry list, he's a privateer, so make of that what you will either way. But we're underway, which is a good thing, and clean and green for the opening couple of minutes. A couple of incidents, unfortunately, but roughly 2/3 of this field have gotten away nicely, and they're settling into the battles, although it's going to be some difficult battling for the next 10 minutes or so, I would imagine, in these dry weather conditions. One of those circuits where it is pretty difficult to overtake.
29 degrees track temperature, 71% chance of rain still as the air temperature is 24, so we'll keep an eye on that one, see if it starts dropping drastically. The wind speed will pick up as well too. Generally always get rain, so that's another good indicator. At the moment, this is where the battles really is. Karen Sharp just slowly getting on the back there of our Polish driver.
Well, I don't think that's quite the flag of Poland. But
it's not. It's Monaco. Is it?
I'm willing to go out on a limb to be honest and get it wrong. So it's Glendy Dionsis who is ahead in the sort of green, pink and black BMW, just ahead in that third position. There he is, and holding on to third for the moment. And while this is the closest battle inside the top 5, we'll sort of immediately run into these problems that Kieran Sharp is going to have, and and in fact all of the drivers are going to have so far in this race, is that it's difficult to overtake. Even if you're within half a second of the driver in front, it's difficult to see your way through.
Yes, it is very, very difficult. You can clearly see the overtake around here. There's not many opportunities. I'm just more about sticking on the track there. And once again, timing the potential rain coming at the right place at the right time. Will you box earlier, knowing it's going to rain soon? We're going to box a little bit later. Wait for the actual track to start to get a little bit wet before. We don't know the time differences you're going to lose, isn't it, between the dries and the wets? And another thing is, too, if you gamble a little bit too long on dry tyres, is obviously you're going to massively increase your chance of that fence coming out and biting you.
There was a bit of discussion about this earlier on, and people think it's around 4.5 to 6 seconds maybe slower in the wet weather conditions. So at the point we're getting to there, then maybe we will start to see some wet weather tyres. Oh no! Oh, big crash! Christian Kampfreger has gone off the road and come back on again, straight into the path of a number of other drivers, and still is sat in an unhealthy position. Finally, we'll be able to get going again now in a gap in the traffic. But goodness me, that could have been very dangerous indeed, and unfortunately it was for someone who came round and completely smacked the driver ahead.
Boom. Contact.
Got into the back of BMW. One of the Ferraris goes around, but then there's a second snap of oversteer, and that Ferrari has nowhere to go to avoid.
Yeah, and I told you, that's where you want to get your fold-up chair. That's the corner that's going to be causing some of those drivers issues, and we just saw it there right now.
Yeah, unfortunate really for all of those involved. Meanwhile, chain for...
Oh, Bobby's gone off. Now, I wonder what corner he went off on. Yeah. Lost it out of the S's, do you think? Yeah.
Turn 7, yeah.
You did say you got to lay off the inside chicane there a little bit, isn't it? Because it can get a little slippery, and that's the occasion of that one.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about the rain really, but we're not even there yet. Still spinning around, so there you go. Down into the Shell S at the end of the circuit now for 12th position. On board with Gonzalo Barros in the Porsche. Rexy, as you may know, the famous Porsche livery, the lime green and the teeth on the front.
There you go.
They're all trying to find their way past Olsinar now and through into 12th position. A bit of a mistake by the looks of things through the final quarter, to be honest.
He needs to capitalise because look at this gaggle of cars currently in the moment. This is your hot zone for this race. And, oh, I wouldn't recommend going side by side through there. We saw a couple of teammates do it, but then again, I don't think teammates are going to be really playing anything in this one-time event at the moment. It's just every man, dog for themselves. You have your pet in the front seat with you, riding a shotgun. Or women as well.
15th, 16th position. Barros trying to hang on there. Oschersleben losing a couple of places now to Rombart. Oh, and contact. Oschersleben goes around at the hands of Barros, so very nearly. Good save in the end, actually. Most of those will go through, Macton being one of them. Oh, and more contact. Barros again.
Struggling.
This time with Bergley Consabo in another one of the Porsches. An unfortunate couple of moments there for Gonzalo Barros.
Yeah, he needs to find his stock pedal there a little bit. He's got a little bit too much speed going into those corners there, and twice now he's tagged something on the back there. So maybe struggling with his brake balance or something like that, or even with these temperatures as we pull it up again. Is that starting to catch those drivers off? Once again, we don't know what happened with weather. Temperature's still the same, 29. Nothing's changed too much with that. Well, wind speed, we have to keep an eye on that one. 17 kilometers an hour.
It's not quite hurricane levels just yet, but it is a little bit stronger than you would normally see. Down in towards turn 1 again. This is what happened the way towards the Shell S by the looks of things. Archie Cole, one in front, and just loses it on the rear end there on turn-in. It's hit in the rear by one of the Porsches in the pink, and around goes Cole. Unfortunately, dropping now down to 24th in the field out of 26, of course, that started the race, although Unai Ortiz looks to have already retired from the race. Look like we're down to 25, unfortunately, already, even before hitting the rain. But I think the general consensus from a lot of the drivers is that we're going to lose quite a few more drivers once we do get into that rain period.
Yeah, especially when some of the drivers have mentioned in the chat that they have zero experience right now driving in the rain. So, yeah, that's going to be tough. Then again, you might be one of those drivers that are just like an absolute rain master, like Michael Schumacher used to be back in the day and stuff like that. You know, just absolutely just go out there and dominate in the rain. Some drivers just particularly love it. Some drivers absolutely hate it. So, depends.
Gurgler Contavo just went off the road there, by the way, out the exit of the main chicane, if you like. There's plenty of chicanes around here, but there's only one that's called chicane for whatever reason. Unfortunately, Contavo drops down to 22nd as a result. He was in a right group here. He's in that darker Porsche. You can see third in line from this aerial shot upon the curve, and well, he gets it. It's another example of a driver getting into the driver in front and spinning themselves around.
Yeah, because I think that's a good overtaken opportunity out of the final corner. And he wanted to do his absolute best to get that speed, isn't it, to build it in so he can probably get the overtake done under turn one. But very late dollar short on that one.
Down the inside there was Pike, I think, but that doesn't seem to have got his way past Smoggy, does he? Maybe. So side by side. It's very awkward through this chicane, though, to go side by side, and so Andrew Pike decides to just back out and then gets the whole load of understeer, which this Porsche can deal to you. And this is somewhat the problem as well with the setup management that you've got to take on. It is a fixed setup for this race. It's fixed to the baseline wet setup, so in these conditions it's not particularly optimized for dry weather conditions.
No, you're absolutely correct on that one. Sorry, I was just hoping that Jason was going to make his way back onto the track with those cars flying around. It's a tough one. You're right on that. See if Andrew Pike can get the job done on Smoggy.
Seventh place again, and by the way, we can tell you, of course, the rain is absolutely imminent at this.
You just cut off there for a second there too, Ewan. Are you back there, sir?
Apologies for that. Just dropped out for a second. Back and fine now.
British internet. We're well aware of it. 83% chance of rain now. It's increased, but the track temperature is still the same. And
it is increasing. Yeah, I think the track temperature is going to be something more to note when we sort of get to drying out phases. But when it's raining, you know, there's never really much to say about the track temperature. And by the way, that chance of rain and precipitation there that was given to you is based on the conditions at the start-finish line, which is where iRacing always takes its track temperature measurements, and it also will now take its rain percentage measurements from at the same time now in this new era. So just bear that in mind, that it doesn't rain equally across the circuit, and our graphics, there's nothing we can do about that, and nothing that anyone can do about that, in fact. But our graphics there will only show you what it's doing at the start-finish line, and not, for example, out at the chicane, which is about as far away from the start-finish line as you can get around this circuit.
Well, you imagine like Spa, right? That's always been one of those notorious tracks where you could be raining on one part of the 7-kilometre track, raining on one part and not on the other. Here comes Johnny Wu on Christian. It's a battle for 18th and 19th, but it's good to see we've got battles all over the place from Pamplona. And a social rain race.
Yeah, what it's all about. Johnny Wu making positions here for... Oh, and off!
Who was that in the background?
One of the Porsches, Barros it was, goes straight off through turn 1 and 2 and into the wall. That's one of the Porsches, and I wonder whether we are starting to see some rain now, because that was a absolutely monstrous crash into the wall.
Oh, he hit the chicane.
Oh, he hit that curb, which didn't help.
Bingo. No traction when you got two wheels off it. That's straight into the fence, exactly, for our sole Portuguese driver at the moment. Which, we might not have anybody for Portugal if that car's completely wrecked. But I think they've got fast repairs on for sure, don't they? Because as being a rain-soaked event. There it is, the rain!
Oh, there it is.
It's just appeared.
There's the rain.
But it's only there. You called it. It's only there, look. And let's have a look at the other parts of the track, because it's pouring there, but where is our race leader? You have to look at somebody else in another part of the track. Now it's starting to come down everywhere now.
We've already got Millington in, so now the games begin, and the spray is already beginning here, so it's starting quite quickly actually here. The last lap was nearly a second slower than the pace that we were showing previously, So we're still a little bit away from these wet tyres really being where they need to be in terms of the amount of water on the road. But Josh Millington clearly decides that this is the moment to come in.
Yeah, I just want to see if those tyres quickly change to anything, any other colour or something like that on the side of those tyres quickly. What is he sitting there for so long for? All right, here we go. So he's out.
Changing all 4 tyres takes a while, I guess.
All right.
GT3.
So where's Jamie, our race leader? Let's have a look at his pace, and obviously you keep an eye on the pace of those drivers that have already boxed for some soft tyres. I mean, soft wet rain tyres. Oh, look at that. Yeah, oh, that's just the spray you're looking at. Looks like it was locking up there
all
for a
right.
second.
The pace is okay. Oh, careful on the curbs, though. He'll be a bit wide through there. And the S's, now will he come in, do the safe thing, and come into the pit lane here? He will. So he needs to get on the brakes here early, by the way, because this pit entry is going to be tricky. He will get it in time. This is a good view on board as to we've got to contend with on the way in here. It's a difficult pit entry. But now he's in, and everybody follows. So we're not going to get a view as to how quick everybody is out there on the circuit by the looks of things. But by completing a lap, is anybody going to...
Yeah, they're all coming in. Sorry, you cut off there too, my friend.
So we're not going to get a view as to what the times actually are. Oh, no, we are. Back here, Dan is staying out. So let's have a view here in the Porsche. How quick is he going? Oh, no. Oh, dear. He's already over 6 seconds down on his best lap time. It's already time for wet weather tyres.
Yeah, look.
Oh, and he knows it now.
Yeah.
Doesn't he know it now? He's in the grass. It's going to be a long in-lap for him. Oh! And in the wall.
Everybody's coming in now. They realise you've got to do this. This is the only driver, of course, we saw have a spin, and he's got a long way to go at the moment. He's got to gingerly be. And then let's see at the moment, our race leader currently, who has gone on and got those wet weather tyres, is this man, and he's got Tom chasing him down. So we're going to see how these drivers have got the telemetry timing going all over the place at the moment. I don't think it can really, hasn't really worked out just yet as a spinner there. When they're going that slow, I'll have to change it for the wet weather races, my friend, because it's thinking that they're crashing, even though they're just slowing down to go on a pit road.
Okay, that's all a learning curve. Everyone, including us, having one of those here today. But look at the amount of time that Nussel is gaining here on Bakir'dan, who's still out there on the dry tyres out in front. The gap actually not very big between them in terms of difference in pace, but the wet weather tyres certainly the ones to be on at the moment. Rombert's now using that outside line, but it's not particularly worked out very well. And Chandler using an extra outside line. That's certainly not going to work out in the grass and the gravel. He's now been caught by Hutter, another one of the Audis, now into the triple left-hander. So Nutter will be leading, but it's just a case of survival for most. That's Moss going off in front, and Hutter will get up to 12th place as a result of that. And there goes around Chandler.
And finally, this man goes in the pit road. He's the last one to change those tyres. Maybe he was gambling and say, okay, if this rain holds up for a few more minutes, then I will save myself a pit stop, which is going to cost you about 48 seconds to change overall here. So, but then again, he'd be losing 40-something seconds. He'd probably losing 30 seconds a lap going that slow. Let's have a look as Jamie is battling it out. Somebody that just exited the pit road right there. So like he just got through there. Tom will have to navigate through that car, of the 21.
Oh, well, slide on the way in towards turn 3 there. And it's Krankers, by the way, who just came out the pit lane in front of Otto. And now we're going to start to sort of discover the lines here. What lines do you want to take around this circuit? Where is fast, where isn't? How do you drive these cars in the wet weather? How much of the curbs can you take? How much can you go out sideways? Is it quick to go out sideways all of the time and try and get on the power as early as possible? How do you manage these wet tyres is less of an issue in a race of this length, but that's going to be to learn as well. It's all about finding the speed around here and somewhat surviving as well. And the curbs do seem still pretty useful, actually, even despite the rain.
You are correct. Look at the way, this is the only time you get, keep the steering wheel pointed straight, and then the rest of it's fighting. You can see. Look at that snap of oversteer all the time there. As soon as you hit that lower pedal a little bit, that car just wants to go faster, and of course the amount of grip that you have is almost none. So this is definitely very difficult for the drivers. This is where you earn your paycheck, isn't it, as a racing car driver, to handle these situations. So, as I said, it's a battle for survival at this point right now. So we're going to have a look at another little battle occurring back here, as that's not a battle, that's
Oh dear.
another driver off.
He's been in the wall as Matt Acton. Not sure where, but Matt Acton has certainly been in the wall somewhere along the line. Here's a battle for 7th position. Rombots has made a great recovery after having to go in the gravel on lap 1 to avoid cars in front. It's around the outside through the first part of the S's, but Oschersleben also having made up a tremendous amount of places today, starting 25th, now up to 7th position in the Ferrari. A couple of great drives here from these two in 7th and 8th.
Well, this is going to be the indication, isn't it, for the drivers as they start the new season. And if rain's obviously included and randomised during some of those tracks, this could be the man to look out for. The wet weather master. I mean, he is from Norway, isn't he? So he's probably used to driving on snow. He's like, this is nothing. I can handle this. It's a walk in the park.
Maybe so.
Well, and they make, I mean, you know that Scandinavian drivers do really well in all that. And obviously, because they can handle some of those last late break into the background. That might have been Bobby, but they are very good in conditions like this, whereas I think Australian drivers are very good. We don't get much rain in Australia, so I'm not used to driving around in tracks like this.
Yes, that's true. People over in that part of the world usually say that Kiwis, New Zealanders, are a bit better at driving in the wet weather, although
Yeah,
I
they would
find
be.
it difficult to believe the climates are very different.
No, they get a lot more rain in New Zealand than they do in Australia.
right,
It
okay.
depends on where you live, of course, in Australia that time of year
Yeah,
and stuff like
yes.
that. But then again, most drivers, when they do get out of Australia, they go to the European divisions. So then they get used to all that European weather.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's although there's no replacement really for growing up somewhere and being used to the conditions of that place. Meanwhile, these two continue to not leave each other alone. Vidi Rombart's now to the outside again through the S, but can't quite do the same as before. Look at the different lines they're taking here. The racing line has been thrown out of the window. The curves are now starting to get thrown out the window as well, to be honest. We are getting to that stage because look at the lack of drainage that we're starting to see towards the edges of the road here. The water doesn't clear out there very easily, and so you are just driving down the middle of the road where it is a bit quicker. That seems to have been a better line there from Romboats though, and there'll be a run on the front straight here, but in towards turn number 1. It's very tricky to find your way down the inside when there's such a small braking zone down here.
There's puddles forming. See the puddles there? As you mentioned. And you see he's also trying to get just off directly following the car ahead so that you can actually see the rain lights flashing as well, too, and that, but just manages to get just a little bit to the side because it also reduces the spray, doesn't it, on his windscreen so he can actually see a little bit better. There's more puddles forming on those chicanes. This is lovely, of course. We're just absolutely thrilled, like whatever, like schoolboys in a candy store or something like that for the first time, aren't we? There, Ewan? Like, oh, this is exciting, my friend. Absolutely.
It is. It's fantastic to see for the first time iRacing Rain in action, in full flight in the TSRC for the very first time in this Rain Shakedown, as it's called. A bit of testing and race action for these drivers. For some, for the very first time. It's certainly myself, Ewan O'Leary, and Dean Boogle's alongside me, our first experience commentating in the rain here on iRacing. So we're all having a bit of a new discovery here this evening. And the TSRC into the S again, and struggling to overtake one of them. Matt Acton seems to be going okay. I'm not sure whether he's been in to repair his front end or not, or whether he's just soldiering on with that one.
And now we're getting to see, look at those puddles forming on the inside. Some of those are a bit strange on the top of a hill there, I don't imagine, but then again, once again, we know that iRacing will definitely get a lot of feedback from drivers and they'll start tweaking that out. You can see right next to Saint that paint will be awfully slippery, as well as those chicanes that you mentioned. And you're starting to see the drivers avoid them a little bit more now during the dry conditions. Hopefully. Otherwise, you're spinning around. Look at that. You can't even see that car up the road, can you, from the spray? Not the one directly in front of him, but the one further.
That's the thing that I've noticed, especially. It's the difficulty in seeing, and you see that, especially if we had a race start in the wet weather conditions, everybody would have been taking it a lot easier. That was a very fast entry into turn 1 from Andrew Pike, but he's just about held it up in time. Maybe that's just way around there. He barely held it on the road. and
say in the wet.
still managed to come out ahead. So, well, maybe that's the way round. But everybody just learning at this stage, not only learning a relatively new circuit in the world of iRacing, but also it's one certainly that I've not seen very much of use in the service, but also learning the rain as well, which is something to contend with. There's Jamie Nuttall, who's dealt with it better than everybody so far, and is leading the way just about.
Yeah, as you can see, the lights will start to come on the cars, so that's a first too. Obviously, they're dictating that's a little dark. The drivers make it a little bit easier to see through the spray. Not you can see much anyway. Just to have an indication, look at those lap times, my friend. So the best lap times they're doing, obviously in the dry conditions, at 124.6. Now they're in the 42 clubs. Most drivers in the 44s, 45s, 46s, of course. These two drivers, Jamie and Tom, they're in the 42 club, so they're cruising along. You can see Tom just lurking around in the background, which is obviously very impressive for that. But as you said, it's a little bit of drive to survive, isn't it, to the rest of the field? To see what they can do to bring the car home to see Barney.
The people who were saying earlier on that it's 4 to 6 seconds slower than dry conditions were certainly lying. Or just talking about some sort of
coming in, so I wonder if
conditions.
damage.
Now, yeah, Stefan Hutter is in to the pit lane. This is going to be another tyre change, maybe.
He's going to go.
Not going to be for dries at this stage.
Yeah, maybe. Why not take a gamble? So. But that's got to be too soon.
Just a drive-through by the looks of things here. Maybe for incident limit, there'll be a drive-through there. Yeah. No stops in the box on that occasion, and another chance to get out of the pit lane here. Oh, there's a spinning BMW, and now this could be a problem for everybody. As Hutter comes out of the pit lane, where's the BMW going to be compared to the others as well? Thankfully, it ended up sort of off the racetrack and out of the pit lane exit road, which is probably the best place it could have laid to rest. And thankfully, Hutter can get back out there again without problems. There is Johnny Woo. Just getting back out on the circuit via the grass, of course, and very slippery grass, a bit difficult to get out of course, as there's some synchronised spinning back here. Dear oh dear, this is a bit of a mess down the way towards turn 7.
Yeah, it's difficult because you get your natural reaction, of course, is that you see an incident up the road, you're like, oh well, I've got to probably, you might have reaction, slam on the brakes a little bit there, and of course, boing, bingo, you're gonna spin around. That's why you got to be bold and brave, isn't it? And just gas it. Just drive like there's nothing happened up the road there. And just fingers crossed you don't collect in somebody. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it fails miserably.
Absolutely. Sorry for that. Brief cut out. Oh, contact! Doristo and Smoggy make small bit of contact, and it's Felix Smoggy who ends up in the wall, and it looks like suspension damage there too. A real shame that such a small amount of contact in such dramatic consequences, I'm afraid, for Felix Smoggy.
Is it with David? I think no. Let's have a look. So he gets Lucy out of there and tags him. Felix does a good job to keep it out of the fence, and you can see that gets on the gas there, and the car's just slide fishtail like crazy.
Yeah, was that maybe what I was seeing instead of suspension damage, or is there actual damage there, or was it just sliding in the wet weather?
No, I think it's just sliding in the wet weather when you hear that. That was only a tiny little tangle tap. I don't think it should have done too much damage.
You say that, but sometimes the smallest of contacts can produce some pretty heavy damage. This is Glendy Diontis in towards the triple left-hander and going for a spin on the way down towards turn 7. Thankfully staying out of the way as well. Norton making his way out of the pit lane in the Ferrari. Right now it's a very tight opening chicane, by the way, if you're making your way out of the pits. Not sure why they've quite made it so tight actually, but they have done. So the view as to what it's like to make your way out there. And the problem in pit exit as well is that it doesn't get the same amount of coverage as the rest of the track. So this drying effect that will be taking place now around the circuit, not because it stopped raining, but just because there are cars out there on the circuit, over 20 of them still running on the main racetrack. The pit exit gets nowhere near that amount of running. And so it can get very wet and even more difficult when you're on pit lane.
Have a look at those clouds are starting to come back out. So you can see the sun starting to appear through those clouds now. So we're going to see these changeable conditions, perhaps changing it back, as Johnny was really not enjoying this condition. No, he's had to slow down, and he's going to lose it there because of that car on the racing line he was probably going to choose. Keeps it out of the fence and lives to see another day.
so that's not an ideal place to find someone sat around if you're on your way towards turn 6. Just add that to the list of problems that you have around this circuit in towards the final corner for Jamie Nuttall, as now we head towards the last 11 minutes of this race. The gap between Nuttall and second placed Tom Davidson still very small, of course, and they're still fighting over this race win. It's Audi versus Porsche here in the rain in GT3s on iRacing for the very first time at Oschersleben, and Davidson can't find a way to quite get close enough right now to Jamie Nuttall, only just sitting about a second behind, as has been the case for quite a while now.
This is fantastic to see once again those puddles forming in these places, and of course this is just this track. You're going to see puddles. Imagine interlagos and stuff like that, my friend. That's going to be super fun because of the elevation changes, and if it rains, it pours in Brazil, my friend. Certainly not much of other tracks. Some of Hungary as well too, my friend. I remember it rains quite notoriously there as well too. You remember seeing people sliding down the hills on the mud hills during Formula 1 races in the past when it rained. Interesting to see how now the track, as a few drivers are probably just getting out of the way maybe for the racing leaders to come through. Now, even with those puddles and stuff like that, when do you think it's going to be enough of a dry line in order for you to gamble to go back onto the drive?
I'm not sure we're going to get to that stage actually in this race, I've got to be honest. I think we could well see the wet weather here to stay and the wet tyres here to stay, because even if it stops right now, which it may have done to be fair, although I can't really tell from this point, it may have done already, but by the time it actually gets to that dry line stage and we get to that dry tyre window, I don't think there'll be long enough left in the race, to be honest. With less than 10 minutes already,
to watch that in the last
there'll be too few laps.
See that? Sorry to cut you off there. See, there was a driver just parked it on that final corner. I think he was just sitting there and having a snack and watching this one and go, all right guys, 10 minutes or so to go. It's like, I've had enough. I don't want to spoil anybody's races. But here he is. Tom is now hunting in Jamie as they're finding probably a little bit more grip here. Has he just been patiently biding his time? Because there's a mistake from Nuttall.
The moment where Tom Davidson finally takes the lead. Jamie Nuttall finally makes a mistake, and that is all the invitation that the driver of that now race-leading Porsche needed. The 42 car to the front with 9 minutes remaining here at Oschersleben. It's the first mistake that Jamie Nuttall has made all day, and it is paid now because he has lost the race lead. Unfortunately, he's going to have to do a very good job to get that one back. In fact, it may be an impossible job for him to get that one back as well. The first mistake of the day, and it punished by Tom Davidson, who now leads.
He's struggling big time now. Has he burnt through, perhaps, these wet weather tyres? Pushed them a little, overheated them? There's possibilities. You can't see a dry line forming just yet, but considering he's been doing everything so well up to that little moment, and then after that moment he's made a few little slight errors since then. So I just wonder if it is, right? Because we don't know. Like, you know, these wet weather tyres, we do know in fact in real motorsports, you can overheat them pretty easy. That's why you've got to sometimes get them onto more of the wet part of the track, don't you? Because as soon as they start drying out, they're like baking a barbecue. They're just done. Some drivers went to pit road. That's all for repairs. I thought somebody was going to gamble and go out softs. We don't know. Sorry, I mean, yeah, dryers. We don't know if
there'll be damage repairs here too for Christian Kampfreger, unfortunately, in the back half of the field. Now in the pink Porsche is a shame, but even though the rain has stopped, and it clearly has stopped now, I don't think it's going to get dry enough for those dry tyres, unfortunately, for many, although we are starting to see a nicer line appear around. Look at that chance of rain back down to 52%. But that was the plan at the start of the day, just to now let you know. Don't want to spoil it at the start of the race, but to now let you know. About 10 minutes of dry running at the start, just over 15 minutes of raining in the middle, and then some drying towards the end in some clear conditions, and that's where it's going to remain like till the end of this one now.
It doesn't show it on the radar map. Oh, it did there for a second actually. Oh, there it is.
It is dry.
I'm not used to this.
It's not raining.
That goes to show you where the rain strip went straight through past the track. See? Oh, yeah, probably can't see that. It's actually behind the thing. My apologies. Anyway, it's a new thing for us to test, and a lot of fun, and we do appreciate the fact that TSRC has given us the luxury and the opportunity to broadcast this for them. Some rain fun. They're used to it. It's believe it or not, in Panama we have this torrential rain, but it's been one of the driest rainy seasons. In fact, it's been so dry that they've had to reduce the traffic through the Panama Canal by about 50% of the shipping vessels because they literally don't have enough water to fill the locks. So it's quite crazy. I'm used to this kind of conditions, but not so much this year. And you get this all the time in the UK, don't you? It's like just a regular UK day.
That's true. Every day's every season is rainy season, if you put it that way.
But you don't get horrendous downpours. You just get that light, annoying drizzly rain.
Yeah, most commonly, yeah. Although you do get the occasional real downpour. Now you can see them looking for a bit of the wetter portions. I hope if I can speak, wouldn't it? Wetter portions of the racetrack to try and cool their tyres down a little bit here. And that's going to be another phenomenon to look out for. At what point do they have to start driving down the grass to cool the tyres down? Don't want to start that debate, but anyway,
go into that
it
lake
might be
that you saw in the
possible.
middle. Just throw the car through that there for a second and come back out. Hydroplaning across it.
Well, it might do the job for a little while, but can't see that being a sustainable tactic, to be honest. As one of the Porsches gets out the way, a flash of the lights from the tool, I think, to say thank you.
That's a thank you for sure. And, I can guarantee you.
Oh,
he doesn't get hit from behind. That's Kinzabo as well, too. Remember, one of our lightning fast drivers in the championship before last season. This is a good thing, too, about the rain races, is that you can balance out. Like, you might have the quickest drivers in the championship all of a sudden struggle big time, and then you, as a driver that may be struggling in the drive races in the season, can really capitalize on some good points. See.
So many things to look forward to over the course of the time now that rain is here to stay. Felix Smoggy, by the way, getting closer to Risto for 7th position now in the field. This is one of the closer battles we've got. In fact, the closest battle that we've got out there on the circuit now in the final 5 minutes of the TSRC rain shakedown here this evening.
Look at the dry line for me. Now, it's easy to see, of course, from outside the cockpit. This is the drivers looking out, no doubt. Used to that. They have no cheat codes or anything like that. They can't go T-cam when they're driving. They've actually got to drive in cockpit view, and you can just see the dry line. But with that spray, it makes it so difficult, doesn't it? In the wet, like obviously when it's fully wet, you can kind of make up a line as you want to go, as you feel comfortable with. But in these dry conditions, is he going offline? This is once again, it's a first for us to see what drivers are going to do.
And it is. Over the line they go. Risto still ahead. But Andrew Pike is getting caught by Matt Acton as well, actually, for 9th position. A couple of battles towards the end of this race, maybe, to have a look at here. See the real wet patches outside of the line. To contend with. Oh, and Felix Smoggy gets it wrong, and he gets in the wall. Oh dear. Well, he's going to have to try and get himself going again without getting out onto the racing line all over again here. Drive through the grass, and he's got such a big gap behind him that he should be okay to hang on to 8th position, but just getting the power down too much, and not even traction control in these GT3 cars will save him from that.
My GTR Skyline with the 4-wheel drive and 4-wheel steering may have saved you. Not at the speeds that these drivers are doing. And that's interesting. Further battle back here, we have... he's missing a whole front end here at the moment. Jim Chandler, and as we saw. Now, there's a big gap for me. Well, it's still, almost 2 seconds to change. Do you think at the moment that Jamie could still catch Tom in time? 2 minutes and change?
He's closing. It will be the last lap by the time they get to the line here, by the way. So we're on the penultimate lap now for these two leaders. But Nusso really is closing in now. And he really is on a mission. He seems to have tamed these drying conditions now, when he looked like he was struggling immediately as the rain stopped. And it looked like the dry period was coming. He looked to be really struggling, but now that it really has dried a lot more, he's doing a bit better. As that there was a carve to the right-hand side there. They're just navigating those slower drivers, are these two. And they're looking to see whether they can get the race win here, both of them. Tom Davidson certainly with the advantage since he's the leader and he's still got more than a second heading on to the final lap.
Yeah, 1.3. It's hovering between 1.5 and 1. As Felix will go to the pit road and fix that front hand damage. Like you just saw before when the wall came out and hit him, remember? I didn't hit the wall. The wall hit me as a race driver. And more about this traffic up at the road too. So Tom's going to navigate this traffic. Most of the drivers, I think, have been, as you see, completely just getting out of the way. They don't want to mess with these two top guns in the rain, really, going for it. Well, Oscar as well, too, running a P7. He's another top gun in the rain. He's the one that's gained 18 positions over a driver of the day, apart from these two. You have to give it to the Norwegian. Finnish driver, sorry. Norwegian. I apologize, Oscar.
Don't slip up there in that.
It's like calling me a Kiwi. Oh, I would do that. Call you a.
I wasn't calling you a Kiwi. I was saying Kiwis are better at driving in the wet because they drive more in the wet.
better at rugby and cricket, things like that. As well.
Well, yeah, that's more up for debate. Matt Acton goes through into 8th position, then still driving rather well without a front end for some reason in the Porsche. Kirkley Kinsabo has made up some good progress today, 11 places in, but would like one more. And Felix Smoggy, who's just come out of the pit lane, and a change for the lead. Tom Davidson gets it wrong in the chicane on the final lap of the race. Oh dear, and he rejoins right in front of an Audi.
No,
which is not going to be pleasing at all. It was probably on one of those curbs, and he's got it all wrong as he was getting caught. He's just clipped the first one, gone into the wall, and as a result, Jamie Nuttall is going to win the race. Into the final couple of corners now for the Audi driver, having tamed the early dry conditions, transitioning to the wet very well. He's managed to overtake on the final lap to win the TSRC rain shakedown here at Oschersleben. The first time moisture used in a TSRC iRacing event, and Jamie Nuttall in the end leads the most important of the 26 laps here this evening by taking the event as Tom Davidson goes for a spin on the final lap to give away the lead.
Wow, and just like that, that's why you've got to just remain in it. You've got to remain in it, and he did. He just, but it's fun, and here we go. Once again, I'd say kind of coming up to this man being the driver of the day here because he's gained, he said almost from last. Isn't it 18 positions here? Bring it home. Don't do it, Tom. Was that too soon? Tom's going to murder me for that, isn't he, once we get him in the chat. Anyway, it's a fun social race. So you've got nothing to lose points-wise or championship-wise. Just pride, really, isn't it? Being
exactly
the wet weather master.
Learning, I think, is the thing as well. So Soristo is going to get back for the most positions gained on the day. Matt Acton may well hang on to 8th place ahead of Andrew Pike, although that's going to be the closest battle remaining out there on the circuit. Still with no front end, Acton, and clearly struggling with a little bit of understeer through the S there, but that may be a legacy of the wet weather anyway. Into the final couple of corners. Will Andrew Pike just send it anyway? Have a go. Why not? Into the final turn. Acton knew that might have been coming and so pulls it to the right hand side just to defend there. And looks like he will hang on to 8th position in a drag race to the line. Does get there to the checkered flag first, and he will finish 8th ahead of Pike. But a fantastic 40-minute race that was, and a great finish as well, but maybe not for Tom Davidson, who just spins on the very final lap on drying conditions, but it was raining or not raining for the last 10 minutes or so of that race. A great showing of what we can come to expect in the coming years with the racing, and just how long it's going to take for us to see the actual track dry out here. I wonder if, was that earlier in the final lap maybe it went off there?
I think so. Let's have a look. We're going to ride on board with Tom. And you can see he's just gone wide, and then he's turning, and the car's sliding. So little corrections on the steering wheel.
That's the flag, or was it before?
That was before, I'd imagine.
Okay. Oh no, this is after the checkered flag.
Oh, that's after. Now I'm teasing everybody. Yeah, you're right. Let's get back to that one actually with Tom.
Okay.
I was making sure you're paying attention. All right, let's have a look.
Here's the actual incident itself. Doesn't even get that much. It's that puddle there, isn't it, on the right hand side? Maybe. I say it definitely is. I don't know, but there is a suspect puddle on the right hand side there, just after the curb, just where the water has really come to lay. It may well have just hooked Tom Davison around in order for him to lose that TSRC rain shakedown win.
Oh,
in the end,
not
that's the qualifying
for
results.
the race, yes.
Jamie Nuttall took the pole, of course. He also took the race win by 8 seconds ahead of Tom Davidson. It was Kieran Sharp who joined them on the podium ahead of Josh Millington, who was the first to come in for wet tyres. Clearly didn't hinder him that much. He finished ahead of Glendy Dionsis, the first non-Brit. It was Verdi Romberts who recovered fantastically from a off-track moment at turn 2 on the opening lap to finish 6th. Oscar Sarito finished best of the Ferraris in 7th out of Matt Acton, who held off Andrew Pike there in the final lead lap positions. Volkan Bakirdan was the first to finish off the lead lap ahead of Felix Smoggy, who had to Chandler Gugler-Kinsabo and Johnny Wu, they mock up the rest of the top 15. Stefan Hutter was 16th ahead of Thomas Martin. Archie Cole was 18th ahead of Ben Norton and Bobby Moss to round out the top 20. Then David Barnes, Jason Krenkers, Nirzi Odsinor, Alex Abril, Gonzalo Barros and Unai Oritz were the drivers to round off the 26 here tonight. But hopefully most of all, above a bit of fun, which...
Oh. Losing you, Ewan. I'm going to get... Oh, here you are. Are you here? Oh. I got you here.
Yep.
What we're going to do, let's pull in the boss man as well as organise this event. So we can actually get a driver's perspective. I'm going to get him in here now. All right. Welcome, boss man, Mr. Kieran Sharp. Now, you can talk us through how this felt like as a racing driver and these change of conditions and all that. So.
Yeah, obviously it's dry to start with, and pretty straightforward up until it rained. And I think that showed with how many people had moments, and I think what was really unknown for everyone was how early they needed to pit. I think some people pitted as soon as they saw drops coming down, and I think it cost them a bit of time when they exited the pits when it was not wet enough. And I think those that went a lap after it started raining, that was roughly the right time to pit. But yeah, it got pretty intense fairly quickly. And a lot of puddles started forming. I think that really caught people off in some corners.
Did you know? Do you have a rate? And we're asking this actually in the broadcast. Do you have like a spotter, or does the spotter in iRacing tell you that there's rain coming and things like that, or not?
Prior to like gridding up, you can have a weather radar, and that will show you like a loop of how it would like unfold over.
Yeah, we showed that during the broadcast, but I wonder if you have a spotter that tell you during, because you can't pull that up when you're racing. Do you have anybody?
You have a new black box on iRacing that has a few rows of like the predicted weather. Yeah.
Very nice. Very good to hear, to be honest. What was it like when the rain actually started to first fall? Because I was expecting everybody to stay out for a couple of laps on dries, knowing that the wet's not going to be any quicker at that point, but everybody was in pretty much immediately. So was that down to the intensity of the rain, or is that just how it works in iRacing, that as soon as there is rain in the air, you've just got to come in straight away, regardless of tyre warmth that you've already got and the fact that the track was previously dry? Does it not matter?
Hard to tell. I think that's something that people will find out over time, but it was pretty intense rain, so I think that did play a factor how quickly you had to pit. Sure.
It's very interesting indeed. What about the sort of drying period? Where did the rain sort of stay? And we saw, I don't know if you saw, Tom Davidson spun on the very last lap to lose the win, unfortunately, at the end. But do you think that was down to puddles and sort of the way they were accumulating on the side of the road, and how was that compared to the dry line that really did start to form there? How far away did you think you were from dry tyres if that race were, say, an hour and 40 rather than just 40 minutes?
I think it needed at least like another 20-30 minutes to properly dry up and start putting some rubber back down. But yeah, it's interesting with the dry line forming. You could kind of be more confident on the brakes. I think that's the biggest thing in the wet. I think that's where a lot of people find in the time is like under braking. And I think at middle of the corner, I think it's the same for everyone. You're just searching for grip. But I think when it gets a lot more dry on the dry line, there's also like another effect is like it's then if you go off the dry line, it's like you're hitting a wet patch and then it throws your car off. So you've got to then be more on the dry line again. Otherwise, it feels like you're clipping the wheel on a patch of grass or something. I think that's what caught maybe Tom out at the end, was maybe he put the rear tyre on the wet line again when he was on the dry line. And that means he spins up that one tyre or something.
What about tyre temperatures? Do they overheat? The wets?
Yeah, I don't think we quite got that far to experience that, but I think those that pitted very early for wets maybe experienced a bit of it. Yeah, they do get hot, and I think you can burn up the tread on the tyre if you're out too long or too early before it gets wet enough.
What do you think this means for regular championships now? Obviously, the week 13 business is going to end pretty soon after the end of this weekend, and regular championships are going to start up again. What do you think it means for those races where rain, of course, is not guaranteed, but there's always that worry in your mind around certain tracks, especially that it might fall? How does it change a regular championship now in iRacing?
Oh, I think it can really set people apart. You know, that could make or break a championship for someone if it throws them off. I think you have to pay really close attention to the weather forecast in each session. And yeah, I think some people are better in the wet than they are in the dry as well. Some people may benefit from being more wet. Tom and Jamie were on another level tonight.
Yeah, it may well benefit a few people, I suppose. Kieran, thanks very much for coming to chat to us after the race and give us the lowdown on what it's actually been like to be out there on the circuit. Thanks for chatting to us, of course, and yeah, congratulations on finishing third tonight.
Thanks. Yeah, see you guys later.
Thanks very much. Kieran Sharp there, third place tonight in the race. The iRacing Rain Shakedown here for the TSRC. That looks like it's it from us, though. Biggles doesn't look like we got Jamie Nuttall or Tom Davison to join us, unfortunately, so we won't be able to hear about their battle so much, but we very much enjoyed their contribution to tonight's events. I think they put on a great show for the race win and a change on the last lap. We can't hope for much more than that as we set ourselves up for rain action now to go in iRacing, with everybody learning this new phenomenon in what feels like a new era for iRacing.
Yeah, it will be, and a lot more to come, of course, and plus updates we'll expect, as you said, about drainage problems and things like that. Of course, it's been a positive. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed with what iRacing has done. It's been a long time in the making, and I think that they've done quite a good job. Very difficult for the drivers, as even the handsome Sue says, I'm fed up with all this rain now. Well, my friend, it's just getting started. Everybody's always going to abuse the rain because it's new. It's like a new toy. You get to play with it, and you're like, okay, I'm getting bored with it now. And you might start seeing a lot less wet weather races. But of course, it's just a rain shakedown. So it's just a little bit of for us to get to know the rain, for the drivers to get to know the rain, and everybody have fun. Of course, all those Brits like the rain, the top four, as you mentioned there. But that's it. Over to you, Ewan.
Oh yeah, that is it for the TSRC iRacing Rain Shakedown then, by the looks of things. Thanks very much to everyone for joining us here tonight. Expect to see some more rain action in TSRC iRacing events to come, of course, but maybe not on such a regular scheduled basis as we saw here tonight. This was purely to try the rain conditions out, to be honest, and we had some fun with it for the very first time. Hope you and until we see you in the future for more TSRC events, it's goodbye for now.